You don't deserve a penny of what he left you. We're taking you to court." My Aunt Diane slid the lawsuit papers across the polished conference table. Her lawyer stood behind her like some kind of hired enforcer. My cousin Bethany leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, that smug little smirk plastered across her face. "Should have stayed in your lane, Val," Bethany said. "This money belongs to real family." They pushed a stack of settlement papers toward me, expected me to fold right there, sign away everything Grandpa Joe had left me. They had no idea what he'd done 6 days before he died. My name is Valerie. I'm 24 years old. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not rich. I'm not some manipulative mastermind. I'm a preschool teacher. I drive a 14-year-old Honda that makes a weird rattling noise every time I go over 45. I live in a tiny apartment with a bathroom door that doesn't quite close all the way. But I had something Aunt Diane and Bethany never did. I had Grandpa Joe's love, the real kind, the kind that doesn't come with conditions or price tags. Grandpa was a retired electrician. He lived modestly, kept his lawn mowed, fixed things himself, watched old westerns on Sunday afternoons. He wasn't wealthy, but he'd saved carefully his whole life. I visited him every single week, sometimes twice. I'd bring groceries. We'd sit together during his chemo appointments when the cancer got bad. I'd hold the bowl when the nausea hit. We'd watch John Wayne movies until he fell asleep in his recliner. I didn't do it because I wanted anything. I did it because I loved him. Aunt Diane and Bethany? They showed up on Christmas. Maybe Thanksgiving if they didn't have better plans. And they always called when they needed money. Diane lived in a big house across town. New cars, luxury vacations she posted about constantly. Bethany was the same. Designer everything. Weekly manicures, brunch photos with captions like "Blessed" and "Living my best life." They looked down on me, called my life small, said I lacked ambition. I wasn't rich. I wasn't glamorous. But Grandpa saw something in me they never did. He saw loyalty. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next taught me that love isn't about blood. It's about who actually shows up. Grandpa Joe died on a Tuesday morning. Peaceful. Quiet. I was there holding his hand. I was heartbroken. Completely shattered. But I was also grateful I'd been there at the end. That he didn't die alone. The funeral was small. Just the way he would have wanted. Except Diane made it about herself. Loud, dramatic crying. She practically threw herself across the casket. People I didn't even know patted her shoulder and told her how strong she was. Bethany spent the entire service on her phone. I'm not exaggerating. I watched her scroll through Instagram during the eulogy. 1 week later, I got a call from Mr. Brennan, Grandpa's estate lawyer. Will reading? Friday at 2. I walked into his office feeling numb, still grieving, still trying to process that Grandpa was really gone. Diane and Bethany were already there. Designer black dresses, expensive perfume, whispering to each other like they were at some kind of exclusive event. Diane leaned close to Bethany. "Don't worry, honey. He always said family comes first." I sat down across from them. Didn't say anything. Mr. Brennan cleared his throat, opened a folder, started reading. "To my daughter Diane, I leave the family heirlooms and $15,000. Diane's smile tightened just slightly. "To my granddaughter Bethany, I leave $5,000 and my 1989 Chevy truck." Bethany's face went flat. Mr. Brennan continued, "To my granddaughter Valerie, I leave my house and all remaining savings." The room went silent. My heart stopped. Grandpa's house was paid off, worth maybe $280,000. His savings. He'd told me once he'd been careful, but I never knew the exact number. Mr. Brennan looked at me gently. Approximately $95,000. I couldn't breathe. Diane stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. This is ridiculous. Her voice cracked like a whip. I'm his daughter. She's just some granddaughter who played nice for a payout. Bethany's voice went shrill. Grandpa must have been confused. He was on all that medication. I tried to speak. I didn't. Don't you dare, Diane hissed. She turned to Mr. Brennan. We're contesting this. You can count on it. Mr. Brennan tried to interject. The will is legally sound and was... We'll see about that in court. She grabbed her purse. Bethany followed. The door slammed so hard the picture frames on the wall rattled. I sat there frozen, hands shaking, tears burning my eyes. Mr. Brennan leaned forward. His voice was quiet, careful. Miss Valerie, there's something else, but I'll wait until things settle. I didn't understand. I was too overwhelmed to even ask. The next 2 weeks were hell. My mom called first. She's Diane's younger sister. Always stuck in the middle. Sweetie, Diane is really upset. Mom's voice was strained, apologetic. Maybe you could share some of it? Just to keep the peace? My chest tightened. Mom, I was there every single week. Where was she? I know. She sighed. But she is family, just think about it, okay? That hurt worse than anything Diane had said. My own mother wasn't even on my side. 3 days later, I got a text from Bethany. Probably best if you don't come to my birthday dinner. Things are tense right now. No apology, no explanation, just exclusion. I stared at that text for 20 minutes. We'd grown up together. I'd been at every single one of her birthdays since we were kids. Now I wasn't even worth an invitation. I felt completely alone. Then the grocery store incident happened. I was picking up milk and bread after work. Still in my classroom clothes, hair pulled, back, exhausted from a long day with 23 4-year-olds. I turned the corner into the cereal aisle, and there they were. Diane saw me first. Her face twisted. Well, if it isn't the little opportunist. She said it loud. Loud enough that the couple browsing granola bars turned to stare. Bethany looked me up and down, smiled that cruel little smile. Enjoy your blood money, Valerie. Hope it was worth losing your family. My throat closed up. Diane stepped closer. Her voice dripped with fake sadness. My father was medicated and confused at the end. She looked around at the other shoppers performing. But don't worry, we'll fix this mistake. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Everyone was staring. I abandoned my half-full cart right there in the aisle, walked as fast as I could to my car, sat in the driver's seat shaking, crying so hard I could barely see. I felt humiliated, destroyed. Like maybe they were right. The lawsuit papers arrived on a Wednesday. Thick envelope, legal letterhead, official court seal. They were contesting the will on grounds of undue influence and diminished capacity. I panicked. I'm a preschool teacher. I make $32,000 a year. I couldn't afford a lawyer. Couldn't afford a court battle that might drag on for months. Diane's lawyer called 2 days later. His voice was smooth, practiced. Miss Valerie, we'd like to offer a settlement. You keep $40,000 and a few small personal items. The house and remaining assets go to Mrs. Diane. He paused. Let that sink in. Court is expensive. You could lose everything in legal fees. This is your best option. I felt trapped, cornered. But something in me resisted. Some stubborn little voice that sounded a lot like Grandpa. I need to think about it, I said. We agreed to meet for mediation. I walked into that conference room, the same one where this whole nightmare started, and Diane was already performing. He was my father. Her voice trembled with fake emotion. I grew up in that house. You manipulated a dying old man. Bethany piled on immediately. Everyone knows you only visited him for the money. My voice shook. That's not true. I loved him. Diane leaned forward, cold, controlled. Then prove it. Walk away from what you stole. I felt tears choking me. Felt myself starting to break. But then I thought about Grandpa. Thought about those Sunday afternoons. The way he'd smile when I walked in. The way he'd squeeze my hand during chemo. I need time to think. Diane sat back. Confident. Victorious. Take all the time you need, sweetie. We both know how this ends. I left that meeting feeling defeated. But that night, I sat on my apartment floor surrounded by photo albums. Me and Grandpa at my high school graduation. At his 75th birthday party that only I had shown up to. Christmas mornings. Summer barbecues. I remembered something he'd said to me during one of his bad days. Don't let anyone tell you you're not enough, Val. You've got a good heart. That's rarer than they know. Something hardened inside me. I wasn't going to let them bully me into giving up what Grandpa wanted me to have. I called Mr. Brennan the next morning. He answered on the second ring. I was hoping you'd call. I met him at his office that afternoon. He pulled out a file I'd never seen before, set it carefully on the desk between us. Your grandfather came to see me exactly 1 week before he passed. My breath caught. Mr. Brennan pulled out a document. The date at the top was clear. 6 days before Grandpa died. He'd heard from your mother that Diane was asking questions about the will. She'd even hinted she'd contest it if she wasn't the main beneficiary. I felt dizzy. So your grandfather did something very smart. Mr. Brennan smiled faintly. He amended the will, what we call a codicil. He walked me through it. Certification of sound mind by 2 independent doctors, witnessed statements, cognitive test results. Grandpa had scored perfectly. Detailed documentation of why he made his choices. Every week I'd visited. Every time Diane had called asking for money. Grandpa had even recorded a video statement and kept journal entries. Mr. Brennan leaned forward. And if anyone contests this will in bad faith, there's a penalty clause. What does that mean? I whispered. It means they forfeit their entire inheritance. I couldn't breathe. Why didn't you tell them from the beginning? Mr. Brennan's smile was sad, knowing. Your grandfather specifically asked me to wait. He said, let them show who they really are first. Grandpa had known. He'd seen this coming. He'd known exactly who Diane was, and he'd been 3 steps ahead the whole time. Mr. Brennan became my advocate, my ally. He agreed to represent me. Fees would come from the estate once everything was resolved. I didn't have to pay anything up front. He started preparing quietly, gathering evidence, building the case. Meanwhile, Diane got more arrogant. My mom called again. Her voice was strained, scared. Diane's lawyer says they have witnesses who'll testify Dad was confused toward the end. My stomach dropped. Were you one of those witnesses, Mom? She hesitated. I just told the truth, Val. He did forget things sometimes. My heart cracked, but I kept my voice steady. He wasn't confused about who actually loved him. Through a family friend, I heard Diane was already planning to sell the house. She and Bethany were going to split the profit. Bethany posted on social media, "Justice will be served soon. Karma comes for manipulators." I wanted to scream, wanted to throw my phone across the room. But Mr. Brennan told me to stay calm, stay quiet. Let them think they're winning, he said. He showed me the video Grandpa had recorded. I sat in Mr. Brennan's office, and he pressed play. Grandpa appeared on the screen, sitting in that same office, clear-eyed, calm. My name is Joe Sullivan. I'm of sound mind and body. His voice was strong. no hesitation. I'm leaving my house and savings to my granddaughter Valerie because she's the only one who loved me without expecting anything in return. He paused, looked directly at the camera. Diane, if you're watching this, I hope you'll understand someday that love isn't about showing up when it's convenient. I cried watching it. Grief and gratitude all mixed together. Mr. Brennan handed me a tissue. Are you ready to fight? I wiped my eyes, nodded. Yes, I'm ready. The court date was set. The night before, Diane sent me a text. See you in court tomorrow. Hope you've made peace with losing everything. I didn't reply, but for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. The hearing room was smaller than I'd expected, more like a conference room than a courtroom. Diane, Bethany, and their lawyer arrived in expensive black suits, polished, confident. I wore a simple dress, sat next to Mr. Brennan, nervous but steady. Diane's lawyer opened strong. He painted a picture of a confused old man on heavy pain medication, an opportunistic granddaughter who'd isolated him from his real family. He showed pharmacy records, prescriptions for morphine, highlighted the dosages. Clear evidence of diminished capacity, he said smoothly. Then Bethany took the stand. Her voice was soft, sad. He forgot my birthday once. He wasn't himself anymore. Diane gave tearful testimony next. I loved my father more than anything. She actually cried. Real tears. It breaks my heart that she took advantage of him in his final days. The judge looked genuinely concerned. Took notes. My stomach twisted. They were convincing. Then Mr. Brennan stood. His voice was calm, professional. Your Honor, I'd like to submit the updated last will and testament, signed and notarized 6 days before Mr. Sullivan's death. Diane's lawyer looked blindsided. Updated? We were never informed of... Because it was filed correctly and legally with the probate court. You didn't ask. Mr. Brennan slid the document across the table. The judge reviewed it carefully. Mr. Brennan presented the medical certifications. 2 independent doctors confirming Grandpa was of sound mind, cognitive assessment results, perfect scores. Diane's face went pale. Furthermore, Mr. Brennan continued, Mr. Sullivan anticipated this very conflict. He left a video statement. He set up a laptop, pressed play. Grandpa's voice filled the room. Strong, clear, unwavering. He explained his decision. Talked about Diane's materialism, her neglect, the times she'd only called to ask for loans. Then his voice softened, filled with warmth. Valerie loved me without wanting anything. She just loved me. He looked straight at the camera. If anyone tries to say I wasn't in my right mind, they're lying to themselves and everyone else, and they know it. Bethany sank lower in her chair. Wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Diane tried to interrupt. I didn't know he... Mr. Brennan cut her off smoothly. One more thing, Your Honor. The amended will includes a forfeiture clause. He explained it clearly. Anyone contesting in bad faith loses their inheritance entirely. Diane's lawyer leaned over, whispered urgently to her. The judge examined all the documents, took his time. Finally, he looked up. I've reviewed the submitted evidence. This updated will is valid, thorough, and extraordinarily well documented. He looked at Diane's lawyer. The challenge appears to lack any substantive merit. I strongly advise your clients to withdraw this case immediately. Diane's voice cracked. Valerie, please, we can work this out. I stood. My voice didn't shake this time. I loved Grandpa Joe. I didn't visit him because I wanted his money. I didn't even know what was in his will. I looked straight at Diane. But you, Aunt Diane, you called him twice last year, both times to ask for loans. She couldn't meet my eyes. I turned to Bethany. And you didn't even show up for his 75th birthday. I'm not the one who abandoned him. I looked at Mr. Brennan. Enforce the penalty clause. The judge ruled in my favor. Diane forfeited the $15,000 and the heirlooms. Bethany lost her $5,000 and the truck. Everything went to me. Exactly as Grandpa had intended. As we walked out of the courthouse, Diane tried one last guilt trip. You're really going to destroy this family over money? I stopped, looked her in the eye. No, Aunt Diane, you already did that yourself. I walked away. Didn't look back. A few weeks later, I moved into Grandpa's house. It's small, a little outdated. The kitchen cabinets are from the 70s and the bathroom tile is pale yellow, but it's filled with warmth, with memories. I kept his favorite recliner, his old work tools displayed on a shelf in the garage, photos everywhere. I didn't flip it for profit. I made it my home. I used part of the inheritance to establish a small scholarship at the local community college, in Grandpa's name, specifically for students studying skilled trades, electricians, plumbers, the kind of work Grandpa respected. My mom eventually reached out. I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you when it mattered. I was honest. I really needed you, Mom, but I'm okay now. We're rebuilding, slowly, with clearer boundaries. Diane and Bethany never contacted me again. Through the family grapevine, I heard they're still bitter, still bad-mouthing me to anyone who'll listen. I realized I don't need their approval or their forgiveness. One quiet evening, I sat in Grandpa's old recliner with a cup of tea. I found a note tucked inside one of his books. His handwriting was shaky but clear. Val, you're stronger than you know. Don't let them dim your light. Love always, Grandpa. I cried, but this time from gratitude instead of pain. I looked around the little house that's now mine, not because I schemed for it, not because I manipulated anyone, but because I loved without expecting anything back. For once, their anger didn't hurt me anymore. It just reminded me that I'd already won the only thing that mattered. I knew I was loved. If you've ever had to stand up to family members who didn't value you, hit that subscribe button right now. You're not alone in this. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one, and your stories genuinely matter to me. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally will try to tear you down when you get something they wanted. But you're stronger than their greed, their jealousy, their lies. Grandpa Joe taught me that real family isn't about sharing blood. It's about who actually shows up when it counts. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.